Peter Parker's life is on a collision course with old friends, old loves, and a brand new serial killer stalking the streets of New York in Death Spiral issue number 1, the kickoff to a brand new 9-part symbiote-based event. Meanwhile, over at DC, Princess Diana must do battle against a brand new, more magical version of the Suicide Squad in Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 17. But oh, we're not done yet, because over in the Ultimate, Luke Cage must contend with his greatest foe yet, maybe his ultimate match, the Defenders? But how could that possibly be? Well, I'll tell you all about it as we hop into 3 of the biggest books hitting shelves this week, everyone. Alrighty then, so starting things off this week, we have the kickoff to Amazing Spider-Man Death Spiral. This issue exists more or less to get you up to speed on everything that you might have missed from the Spider-Man book, the all-new Venom book, and the Eddie Brock Carnage book. Starting off, we have Peter, who, if you haven't been paying attention, spent the last several months out in space without telling anyone where he was going. Norman took over the role of Spider-Man, Ben Reilly took over Peter's civilian life, and by extension ended up completely cratering his relationship with, well, everyone in his life. As Peter noted, how bad is my life that a couple missed calls could completely ruin me on a social level? And I mean, yeah, that's a very good question, one that I'm sure this series and the main Spider-Man book will do nothing to actually interrogate moving forward. I mean, Aunt May already forgave him in the last issue of Spider-Man, so the rest is all kind of gravy. Another major thing you will notice in this series is that in the background we see a bunch of grisly murders all being perpetrated on people with very similar last names: Watson, Riley, Parker, Brock, etc., etc. Now, one relationship that Peter actually does want to try and salvage is his relationship with Brian Nearing, the guy who got him his job at Rand Enterprises, though Brian isn't doing so good right now, following a massive workplace accident as he was attempting to put the finishing touches on his brand new state-of-the-art mushroom project. Well, I say accident, but the book continues to be very vague about whether or not Ben sabotaged the project purposefully or not. Either way, Brian is all sorts of messed up right now. He has multiple pupils in his eyes and will almost certainly end up becoming a supervillain at some point. Now, hey, speaking of supervillains, from there we transition on over to Carnage and his brand new host, Eddie Brock. Yes, that's right, these two have ended up teaming up, not willingly, mind you. At the end of the last big symbiote event, Eddie and Carnage were near death, and the only way both could survive is if they ended up striking a devil's deal with each other. For what it's worth, I actually do like the subtext that Charles Soule is playing with in that Carnage book. Basically, Eddie is a guy who's been clean and sober for years, had a good relationship with his kid, a good job as the King in Black, but one mistake later and now he's fallen off the wagon and forced to do some pretty bad things that he doesn't want to do. And again, forced is the operative word here. Basically, Carnage is forcing Eddie to kill in exchange for keeping him alive, and Eddie has found a compromise by deciding to go after the worst serial killers all over the world. Like in New York City, where he is hot on the trails of a brand new serial killer calling himself Torment. He's the guy whose crimes we keep seeing interspliced all throughout this story. Torment is a chain killer, meaning he kills people related to each other by a system that only he truly understands. The other important thing you need to know is that Carnage has been monkeying around in Eddie's brain while he sleeps, meaning that he now officially knows that Spider-Man and Peter Parker are the same person. Though none of that really matters right now, because while in New York City, Eddie decides now is high time to finally visit his son Dylan, who has just been through so much since his creation. I mean, finding out that his father was actually Eddie, finding out he was a living codex, becoming Venom, doing a bunch of time travel shenanigans, losing both his father and his symbiote, almost going to jail before being placed with Mary Jane Watson by Flash Thompson. Mary Jane's not here right now because she's busy off being the all-new Venom, meaning that Dylan's main guardian right now is actually everyone's favorite new Spider-Man character, Paul. You know, after having caught up on all 10 issues of All New Venom to prepare myself for this brand new Death Spiral event, I think I can say with a certain level of authority that, yeah, Al Ewing really is that good, and with Paul, he damn near comes close to polishing that turd in a way that I don't think anyone thought possible. I mean, sure, he basically just exists solely as an avatar for fans to pool all their anger and disappointment into, but in this book, he almost has a character, and I think there's something weirdly endearing about the fact that he had a crappy father, and because of that he just so desperately wants to try and relate to Dylan, a character who hates him damn near as much as the fan base hates him, which, you know, is saying something. So yeah, Eddie's reunion with his son was an absolute bust, but Mary Jane's reunion with Flash Thompson has actually been much more positive. She enjoys having someone she can talk to about being the host of a symbiote, especially someone who's been there once before. MJ had actually tried to talk to Peter about everything that was going on with her and her brand new symbiote powers, but she ended up getting completely shut down and locked out by Ben, who was still posing as Peter at the time. As far as MJ and the Venom symbiote goes, they mostly get along. They kind of got a fun, quirky roommate thing going on, and for a second there, they almost had a whole throuple relationship thing happening with Paul, before Mary Jane was ultimately inspired to dump him, which the symbiote was fine with because he never exactly liked him anyway. Again, no one likes Paul. And oh boy, let me tell you, they waste absolutely no time experimenting with Mary Jane on the rebound, as she even kicks around the idea of maybe dating Flash. Which, God, I know that's gonna go over well with the fan base. Say what you want about Paul, but at least he was a blank cipher that everyone could hate all at once. People actually like Flash. Paul gives Mary Jane a call to let her know that Eddie came by the house, which is just as much a call for the symbiote as it is her. Again, Venom still very much loves Eddie and wants them to be reunited, not just for itself, but also for Dylan too, which the symbiote also cares very much about, even though the symbiote was lying about its new union with MJ to try and keep Dylan safe. Yeah, see, look, all new Venom just doesn't exist solely to try and keep Mary Jane and Peter apart as romantic interests. It also exists to keep Eddie Brock away from his King in Black powers. Now, after getting the royal deadbeat dad treatment from his son, Eddie decides to slip on into some dirty hovel and get some rest before he tracks Torment in the morning. Carnage is weirdly understanding about this, which should really be a dead giveaway about what exactly is going on here. You see, while Eddie sleeps, Carnage actually carries on a correspondence with Torment. You see, much like in the main Eddie book, Carnage doesn't actually like this partnership with Eddie and would much prefer he die so Carnage can go hang out with someone much more his speed like Torment. And because Carnage now knows the connection between MJ, Peter, and Eddie, Carnage decides to have a little fun by setting Torment on the path to hunt MJ next. As Carnage so eloquently puts it, these three dysfunctional families continue to spiral around each other, a death spiral, if you will. Now from there we transition on over to Absolute Wonder Woman, and oh man, this brand new issue wastes absolutely no time getting started. If you'll recall, when we left off, Zatanna, leading a brand new version of the Suicide Squad, ambushed Diana at a fancy gala ball and managed to seal away her magical powers. Now this isn't a huge problem, as we had learned from that annual, Wonder Woman isn't just her magic powers, she also has gifts given to her by the gods. The Princess of Hell gets ready to deck the Mistress of Magic right in the chops when we realize that Zatanna isn't actually the bad guy in this situation. In fact, she has been doing everything in her considerable power to try and free herself from Veronica Cale's control, and after giving a little bit of her own magic over to Wonder Woman, we see Zatanna cough up a tiny little parasite that, yes, looks like a miniature Starro. Yes, it seems that this is actually how Veronica Cale controls her brand new Suicide Squad, and I mean, geez, little parasites, is that better or worse than a bomb at the base of your neck? Now, after building up Zatanna as this big magical foe for Wonder Woman to overcome after several issues, you'll be surprised to discover that once Zatanna is free, she just straight up leaves. Because, well, she's not a villain and has absolutely no intentions of following Veronica Cale's orders. This leaves Cale at a rather interesting impasse now she's lost her magical weapon, meaning she needs to get another out to the field ASAP to try and salvage this plot. At first, they talk about maybe sending Kuka, who you might remember is the crocodile sorceress from that new Wonder Girl book, before eventually deciding that she needs to pull out the bigger guns, a magical weapon that she can't even fully control, proving that Veronica Cale might even be more dangerous once her ego has been bruised. Also, just because Zatanna has checked out doesn't mean that Wonder Woman still doesn't have to deal with the rest of the Suicide Squad. A lot of them are shown to be a lot more villainous, especially Giganta, who is just rip-roaring for a fight, and oh man, this version of the character looks so damn cool. I love the little nodes on her arms and legs. I'm assuming that's how her powers work here. Wonder Woman ends up taking a massive hit early on in the fight and gets completely laid out. Well, it looks like she gets laid out. In reality, she's only playing possum, hoping that Giganta will play with her food long enough for Diana to steal a lock of her hair, and use it to magically recreate the process by which Giganta gets huge. And oh, I think you all know what this means, don't you? Giant woman fight, giant woman fight, giant woman fight. We're getting a giant woman fight, everyone. You know, you pray for days like this to happen, and then when they come, you have no words. It's just so beautiful. Wonder Woman grows to full-on giganticize and returns the beatdown from before with interest. Though in a lovely bit of characterization, we're reminded that Diana just doesn't care about winning fights, she also cares about saving all of those around her, including her friends. Steve spearheads an evacuation mission, while Barbara just, well, kind of looks like how I'm looking reading this book right now, staring into the eyes of giant Wonder Woman, completely transfixed, and I mean, yeah, that is 100% the correct reaction in this situation. Now, Giganta might be down, but she's not out. Round 2 starts not long after, and Wonder Woman decides that she needs to lead the rampaging powerhouse away from the more populated city centers. What's great about this is that as Giganta chases after Wonder Woman, she only ends up growing larger and larger. We get a really awesome little scene where Wonder Woman tries to wedge herself between a couple skyscrapers in an attempt to give Giganta the slip, and by the time everything is said and done, both women have grown to full-on Godzilla kaiju size. And you know what? I'm just over here desperately trying to fight the urge to sing Giant Woman from Steven Universe. By far, though, I think the best thing about this fight is that even though it is incredibly cool and incredibly climactic, Wonder Woman once again really showcases the kindness that makes her a hero. Yeah, she's more than happy to throw down with Giganta, but at the same time, she actively doesn't want to hurt her, putting her in a sleeper hold and trying to put her out. That way, instead of prolonging the violence any more than it needs to. Though, sadly, as is often the case in these types of situations, violence ends up coming anyway. We see Cheetah, aka Priscilla, no doubt Priscilla Rich, come under attack by her own reinforcements. In a great artistic choice, we actually don't see the attacker first. Instead, we see through the attacker's fiery eyes as they stab Priscilla and steal her blood for themselves. Yeah, that's right. I joke all the time that it always comes back to blood magic in this series. Well, for once, Wonder Woman is actually coming up against a foe who is just as good a blood magic practitioner as her. Now, who exactly is this mystery guy? Well, we pull back to reveal that he is a flaming skeleton man, which is an incredibly striking, jaw-dropping image, and that's even before it's revealed that this guy's name is Giovanni Zatara. Yes, that's right, Zatanna's father. They were using a parasite to control her, and they were using her to control him. And finally, this week we come to Ultimates issue number 21. While Iron Lad and the others are still busy fighting the Maker under his domed city, we get the opportunity to hang out with Luke Cage and his revolutionary Avengers as they actually fight the battles to try and free planet Earth from the Maker's cabal on the outside. And so far, they're actually doing pretty damn good. Luke is one hell of a leader with one hell of a vision for the world, not only defeating the Maker and his forces, but also remaking the world into a better, fairer place once the bad guys are dealt with. We also get a really good look at his team, made up of entirely original characters with powers and costumes that are more than just a little reminiscent of characters we have in the main 616 universe, like Singularity, a guy who is clearly meant to be Cloak from Cloak and Dagger, or Nameless, someone who is very clearly supposed to be Deadpool. By far, though, I think we can all agree the greatest addition to this fighting force is actually Penance, the new ultimate version of Ghost Rider, who instead of riding a motorcycle sold his soul so that he could ride three-headed Cerberus, or as the comic puts it, Hell's Worst Boy. Now, Luke and his team are winning battles all over the place in Lexington, Nashville, Charlotte, Kansas. But as he so eloquently puts it, winning is only half the battle. After that, you have to decide what's actually going to come next for all of these people who have been living under the Maker's boot. Community action committees need to be formed. Technology from all these big evil corporations need to be divvied up. Hey, do you know they solved the gas crisis back in the 70s in this world? Well, they did, but just buried it. What about all these massive luxury skyscrapers sitting completely open, just part of some evil dude's real estate portfolio? Well, they need to be made livable. Then there's the matter of burying the dead on both sides, as well as dealing with defectors from the Maker's side. They're getting more every day, but they need to psychically assess them to make sure they really mean what they're saying and that they will willingly take part in this new restorative justice system that they're all hoping to build. Luke and his team just aren't winning battles, they're actually winning hearts and minds, which understandably royally pisses off DaCosta of the Maker's inner council. You might be thinking to yourself, how is DaCosta even still a major player after getting mollywopped by Miles in that Incursion series? Well, don't worry, it actually does end up becoming important later on. DaCosta tells Emma Frost that he has the perfect plan to take the fight directly to Luke Cage and his Avengers, and that up until now their only problems haven't been moral, they've been messaging. The consumers of the world, I mean the people of the world, have spoken. They love heroes, they want heroes, so DaCosta's gonna give them a super team that that they've been begging for, a completely apolitical fighting force. These guys don't lecture, they're just about awesome fight scenes and colorful costumes, maybe a little light romance and definitely some quips. They're the all-new Defenders, and they're here to uphold truth and justice and other vague concepts that we can change anytime we want. Their uniforms will also have a shit ton of logos on them, you know, like a NASCAR. Jeez, Dennis Camp, tell us what you really think. I get the strong sneaking suspicion that these comments are probably going to end up getting misattributed to the MCU. Oh, he's definitely talking about the movies, guys. No, I think he is very much talking about the comics. Specifically, I think he is airing his own personal anger and disappointment that Marvel really pulled the rug out from under all these new Ultimate writers just when it seemed like things were really getting good, just when it felt like this line was really building an identity for itself. Why did they do it? We still don't know. My guess, going solely off what we've seen in this book, Marvel and Disney, their parent company, maybe they got scared. The new Defenders make their appearances known almost instantly, attacking Luke Cage as he attempts to process a bunch of Red Skull prisoners, only for all of them to get turned to red mist by Ballistic, the new cannonball-esque leader of the Defenders. Don't know his story? Don't worry, because a bunch of AI drones are filming the action and giving all the necessary exposition to people watching at home, while also using the AI technology to edit the fight footage to make it look like the Avengers are the bad guys. And oh boy, did these new Defenders reek of market research. We got the farm boy who left it all behind to fight for the greater good. He's gonna test great in the Rust Belt, the Scandinavian goddess who, oh sure, she might have been part of an old white power organization, but I don't see why that's important, she's pretty. Then we got a psychotic Black Knight with a soul-drinking sword who hasn't exactly learned all the PR speak yet, but you know, he's gonna get there eventually. As well as a new agey blue-skinned assassin woman who's gonna do great with people who think colloidal silver is actual medicine. Things are not looking good for Luke and his team right now. They have been completely blindsided and bushwhacked by this new group, who on top of kicking their ass actually looks like they're winning the PR battle out there. Or are they? As Luke says, these villains may seem strong, they may seem unassailable, but at the end of the day, that's actually their greatest weakness. They're too perfect. They've never known hardship, never known suffering, and because of that, the real ones out there can smell a bunch of fake industry plants when they see them. The heroes ultimately end up not needing to get the upper hand in this fight because the regular everyday people who they've rallied to their cause, they're the ones who actually manage to step on in and give the edge back to the actual good guys. And oh man, when the tide turns, it turns swiftly. Singularity traps one in the darkness, who admittedly gets off pretty easy considering that the wannabe Thor lady gets her freaking head smashed in with her own hammer by Luke Cage. Damn, now that is what I call all power to all the people. Now, DaCosta takes this newest failure in stride, thinking, you know what, this is why we have understudies for the Defenders. Here's the thing, though, his second big failure has not gone unnoticed by the rest of the Maker's Inner Council. They've all decided that DaCosta is out and Emma Frost is in. Not only is she ready to take his place, but she actually shows her loyalty to DaCosta's son, another one of her mutant students. Emma cues up this abusive, blood-drinking father to be burned up by Sunspot, and man, you know what? That's very cathartic. This dude has had it coming since the very beginning of this series, and I'm glad that it's actually his son who does the deed. And there you have it, everybody. Another Wednesday, another 3 big books down the hatch. What did I think? Well, as far as Death Spiral goes, if you've been watching the channel long enough, you'll know I've kind of been dreading this storyline, especially because I knew I would have to go and read the other Symbiote books for context, and, you know, I thought that they rushed some of the more interesting ideas they had in the main Amazing Spider-Man book just to get us to this moment. Now that we're at this moment, how do I feel? It actually okay, if you can believe it. I actually thought this story did a pretty good job putting their best foot forward. It looked really, really nice. This is one of the best looking Spider-Man books I've read in a very long time, it feels like. Again, if you hadn't been reading the Eddie Brock Carnage book or hadn't been reading the Mary Jane All-New Venom book, this book does a passable job, I would say, getting you up to speed on the status quo of those two series. Admittedly, a lot happened, but not a lot happened, and I think for what it's worth, they are actually doing kind of an interesting job meshing these seemingly unrelated storylines together, and there is the promise that, hey, you know what, do you love the messy family dynamics of the Parkers, the Watsons, and the Brocks? Well, guess what? We're gonna put it all together in one big stew. We're gonna mix it up and we're gonna make a whole 9-part event out of it. Again, I don't know if 9 parts, you know, is really what we should be shooting for. I feel like a lot of these events are super inflated these days. I guess I do appreciate that Carnage is ultimately the villain, or at least a secondary villain to everything that's going on, and it's like, well, yeah, duh, of course he is. Why wouldn't he be? It's Carnage. He's always been bad. Of course he's going to be pulling the strings here. Despite them really selling us on Torment, this brand new character, I keep wanting to call him Death Spiral. He's not Death Spiral. His name is Torment. Death Spiral is the name of the book. He looks pretty generic bad guy, and I know we're not actually going to be learning his origin very soon. They solicited a special origin issue just for him, which is another one of those things that kind of makes me roll my eyes like, come on, why can't we just tell stories where we are? Why do we need to artificially lengthen them? But again, I'm getting off point now. I actually thought this one wasn't too bad. I would actually probably give this one a 7 out of 10. I know I kind of do this a lot with Spider-Man stories. I go in really excited, and I go in really giving them the benefit of the doubt, and usually by the halfway point, sometimes not even by the halfway point, I end up being horribly disappointed. Let's see if it happens again. Let's see if history repeats itself. But up until then, yeah, I thought it was actually pretty okay. Then after that, we got Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 17, and man, this series just continues to be a pure shot of unbridled joy to the heart and to the eyeballs and to every other extremity every time I read it. It's just so wonderful, so pleasant, from the art to the character interactions. I love that so many of Wonder Woman's classic foes are getting these honestly kind of long overdue reinventions and remixings and remasterings. I, of course, have always been a huge fan of Giganta. I love that she gets to be a threat here. I love that she gets to show off and be cool, and I love the deeper cuts to, maybe we will be getting Krakoa, maybe we will be getting some of these other Wonder Woman villains. I don't know who the Burning Skeleton guy is. I feel like I should probably know, and it's actually nice for once to not know and to actually genuinely be surprised, and that's something I can say about the whole Absolute line, especially Absolute Wonder Woman. I continue to be pleasantly surprised all the way down. I would give this one a very well-deserved 8.5 out of 10. Great stuff. And then lastly, this week we have Ultimates issue number 21, and man, if I complained before about how I felt, Ultimate Spider-Man had so many good ideas and concepts and themes that it wasn't quite able to realize because there just wasn't enough time and not enough road, The Ultimates is a book that honestly makes me say the opposite, and that is, man, they didn't have enough time to tell this story, but Dennis Camp did not back away. He did not falter. If anything, I think he used the situation to actually fuel him in a story like this to get more insightful, more thematic, and honestly, less afraid to just, start kind of throwing elbows narratively, and it all kind of fits into the story he was already telling, this anti-authoritarian, anti-fascist, anti-corporate story, and man, I'm going to be really sad when this is done, because I'm going to be really sad to lose this version of Luke Cage, which I think is maybe one of the coolest alternate versions of the character we have ever gotten. I love his mission statement, I love the fact that he is constantly kicking theory and quotes and all this other stuff. Just, man, what a great version of this character, what a great story, and man, I hope that a lot of people, were able to continue to take this ride with this story, and once they heard that the universe was ending, they didn't get scared and backed off, because this really is an all-timer, and man, Dennis Camp had an amazing 2025, and it looks like he's going to have an even more amazing 2026. I would give this one a very well-deserved 9 out of 10. This was art, this was peak, as they say, and it's going to be hard to top. So there you go, everyone. There's 3 more big books hitting the comic shelf this week. I hope you had fun with the video. I hope you read something great this week, and I hope you'll join me again later in the week when we get to do it all over again with 3 more books. What am I going to cover? I don't know. Try and guess down in the comments section. That might be fun.